Everybody, welcome on into Alarm Fantasy Football. 1 minute late because one of us, not going to say who, needed to get his iced coffee. But you know what? We need you caffeinated, Theo. We need you fired up. Our guest today, Theo Gremminger, coming in to do a bit of a fantasy wishing mock draft, if you will. We want to go in, we've been researching this stuff all year long, all over the place, especially in the off season. And we know what's realistically possible at this stage and what's not. But anything can happen with the NFL draft. Am I right, Theo? Anything can happen. So why not do a little fantasy wishing today?
Yeah, I mean, last year alone, we had the Shador Sanders free fall where even if we thought Sanders wasn't going to go in round one, we had no clue he would go, as late as he did. And every year it feels like there's a couple players that fall, a couple of players who are shock picks, especially when we get to day two. Day one, we get it's like a pretty decent science at this point. But even a couple of years back, we had the Ricky Pearsall, Xavier Legette ending to the first round. So things happen, and we have to be ready to like roll with the punches.
Exactly, dude. And that's the beautiful thing about the draft is that we don't know what's going to happen. It would suck if we already knew. You know what I mean? A lot of these other sports, the draft either is too predictable or it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like you go in and the NBA, I feel like a lot of times it's all kind of settled well in advance and with the baseball draft it's so convoluted or in the hockey draft, these guys get picked and you don't see them for like 3 years sometimes. It's football, the draft is a special thing. And I love that you don't know what's going to happen. I agree with Peter Schrager whenever possible to avoid spoilers because it's a lot of fun. But today, what we're doing, because we're fantasy football guys, is we're going to look at the draft and we're going to make realistic picks wherever possible. But we're also going to try to do our best to create a great landscape for fantasy football, right? Avoid the bad teams that might want to take guys that we like. Avoid overcrowding certain teams that already have wide receivers and tight ends and things like that, and put together some possible picks that could happen tomorrow. And that way, when you guys are watching the draft, you can go through and say, oh, baby, Kenyon Sadiq went exactly where Coop and Theo were hoping he would go. And this is a beautiful thing. And now it's a beautiful thing for fantasy football. So we got 32 teams to get through here. Why don't we jump in and get started? You ready, brother?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. First pick here. Here, let me pull this up. Where did I go? Why don't we use this little board I made here? How's that look?
It looks incredible. Is it AI generated?
No, I made it in Excel. AI generated. Get out of here. You know what I did? Where did it go? There it is. What I did is I went through and just used that little the dropper and just picked the actual team colors for the dropper there. Isn't that nice?
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. So you know what, dude? Working overtime here. No need for AI. So let's jump in. First one, I mean, just for the sake of time here, we everyone expects this to happen. You're not expecting any surprises here, right?
No, it's Mendoza.
Yeah. Okay. Lock that in. And I think, you know what? Good landing spot. Hopefully, do you think Kirk Cousins will start for them?
No, I think it's going to be Mendoza from day one. I think having Cousins there, it's a little mentor thing. And it's also, I guess it gives him the flexibility if he's actually struggling in training camp. Do they slow play him 3, 4 games? But ultimately, I think Mendoza versus what we've seen recently from Kirk Cousins, the edge goes to Mendoza.
Love it. And I'm with you on that. And I will say this at the second pick, this is where we have to be realistic and we have to give our fake fantasy mock draft some credit, right? Like we have to send an edge rusher to the Jets. We could, if we were doing full fantasy wishing at this pick, we would do like Ty Simpson or something, right? Just like throw a quarterback there, but that's not going to happen. So do you have Bailey or do you have Reese?
I have Bailey. I think it's David Bailey at the 2 spot.
Okay. This is where it gets interesting. Arizona Cardinals at 3. There's a ton of debate about what they could do. Do you want them to take Jeremiah Love?
I do want them to take Jeremiah Love. I think from many perspectives, I think if you use the number 3 overall pick, you're talking about one of the earliest running back selections of all time. It's higher than we saw Bijan Robinson go. It's higher than we saw Ashton Genty go. It's higher than we saw Jahmyr Gibbs go. It's significant. It's top 3 draft capital. It's a spot where they would be selecting him over any non-quarterback in the draft when wide receivers is such a premium, and over guys like Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, Francis Maui Noah. There's so many players here that are enticing for Arizona, and they still would go Jeremiah Love. Makes me think that that's a fast track type usage, and we're talking about getting Bijan Robinson part 2 or Christian McCaffrey type usage. So I'm into it. I think Go ahead and draft him, Arizona, and we might be taking him at the 101 in redraft maybe next year.
Yeah. Are you cool with lining up James Conner and Trey Benson and Tyler Algier in front of the firing squad here?
Yeah, I think they're dust with Jeremiah Love, and it would be sort of fitting for Tyler Algier to become the Tyler Algier in Arizona. James Conner, they have announcing a pick. Like they're going to give him like respect and all that kind of stuff. He's sort of a player that they love organizationally. But at the end of the day, guy got banged up, guy's 30 plus. Tyler Algier, opportunistic starting running back, if anything, and Trey Benson sort of can't ever get on the field. So they have a need for a player like this as well. And they can figure out quarterback later in the draft, or they can figure it out in 2027.
They're gonna have James Conner announce his replacement.
Not in round one. In day two, he's going to have to come out and be like, yeah, guys. It's either day 2 or day 3. They have all the NFL has like their players announcing and like legends and stuff.
Yeah.
James Conner's the one for Arizona.
He's day 1 though. Like
no, not day 1. Imagine he came out and was like the new starting running back.
That would be awesome, dude.
And they make him say new starting running back.
Yeah, I was looking at the list, man. I like the Deion Branch for the Patriots, dude. He's he made the mistake of leaving, but doesn't get enough love for his playoff performances. Titans here, they have Calvin Ridley, they have Wan'Dale Robinson, which for the short term kind of hurts things there. We're not going to give him a tight end here. We're not giving him a running back. Do we just put a different player? Like, what do you have the Titans doing here?
Well, I mean, I think in real life football, the Titans are probably going to go with the Sonny Styles or an Arvell Reese here if the board lines up as we're predicting it. But I think you could do it. It's pragmatic. How crazy you want this thing to get, Coop? It's kind of like
I think what we want, like we want it to be realistic, and we want guys going to good spots. I don't think this is a good landing spot for a fantasy football player. That's part of it. So I think that we can keep it realistic by doing an Arvell Reese or Sonny Styles here. In my own mock draft, in the first edition, I'm going to finalize the second edition today. But I originally had the Cowboys trading up to this spot to take Sonny Styles, which is
I think the Cowboys want Styles, but I think they could move up, but I think it would probably be a shorter move up because they don't have a second round pick, and I don't think they want to move up 12 and 20 to get this pick.
Yeah, my thought process is that like so many guys have come out and said that that there's only 10 to 15 players that matter in this draft, that I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys did just take both their picks and make a big move for the one guy they wanted. But it would be a crazy pick for a linebacker. Jack sends in the chat, what up, dude? Let us know what you're a Cowboys fan. Would you want the Cowboys to trade up to 4 for Sonny Styles? It's a really aggressive. Titans. So, okay. Do we want to go Styles here or Arvell Reese?
It lines up cleaner if we take Arvell Reese here. It makes our jobs a little bit easier because Arvell Reese doesn't really fit into the Giants. I bet they could take him as sort of a bet on talent, but I think it's Arvell Reese and then in real life football, Sonny Styles. But do we want to put a wide receiver here? Because Malik Neighbors is going to miss the beginning of the season. We've got a quarterback we like in Jackson Dart. And getting a wide receiver as a top 5 pick is always exciting for fantasy.
Yeah, I think with the Giants, because you look around the NFL, there's a very popular setup now where you have a big split end and then you have a slot flanker that moves all over the formation, right? You have the Bengals with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. You have the Cowboys with George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. You have the Rams with Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. For years, you had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. I think that for maximizing the upside of everybody, including Malik Neighbors, and possibly leaving things open for Isaiah Likely, I think we're better off having a guy go to the Giants that is more of a split end than definitely not like a Mekhi Lemon. I think like Carnell Tate here leaves the world open for everybody to still live in fantasy. Does that make sense for you?
Yeah, I think Carnell Tate would be a fantastic player to play alongside with Malik Neighbors. It's sort of a if you want to keep it more recent, it's sort of a T. Higgins, Jamar Chase combination. But then you have the added caveat that Malik Neighbors misses time, so you get Carnell Tate and sort of like the opportunistic wide receiver 1, which is what he's being drafted at and looked at by a bunch of teams. So, I think Tate could also end up at 6 to the Browns. I think he could end up at 8 to the Saints and 7 to the Commanders. I think he goes inside the top 10 here. So it's fine for real life football and for fantasy purposes.
Yeah, and for my own mock draft, I'm not sure if you're feeling the same way. I'm actually at the stage where I kind of am looking at Jordan Tyson
Yeah,
as
I think
the
Tyson's connected very much to New York, but they have two shots at it. Can they see if he falls to 10, or do they have to take him at 5? I think that's one of the big questions at the beginning of the draft.
yeah.
And could they trade down from 5 if Reese falls?
Which wide receiver do you have drafted first in your own mock, in your real mock?
I think Carnell Tate. I'm not 100% though, Coop. I'm still actually working on it.
Yeah.
My personal wide receiver one in this class right now is Carnell Tate, but I think it's close enough between the big 3 wide receivers, really big 4 if you want to push Casey Concepcion, that it's okay if you're apprehensive to reshuffle post draft. But I think Tate is the cleanest prospect of all of them.
Agreed.
Draft capital, we're not going to worry about it. He's excellent. You mentioned George Pickens. I think he's going to be a George Pickens-like player without sort of the early career headaches. He catches everything. He can be a red zone monster, deep threat. I think Carnell Tate is awesome. And I think what's interesting is the fact that he runs a 4.5, like call it a 4.5 40, and he's still going to be a potential top 5 pick just speaks volumes to the rest of the NFL. When you compare him, he's not like an overly athletic freak. He's a super agile, wide receiver 1 tendencies, but he's not some guy that's getting there because he ran a 4.39 at like 6'4". He's 6'2" and runs a 4.54, and he's still going to be a top 5 pick.
Yeah. I mean, like those guys feel trustworthy, don't they?
Devontae Adams, like, DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, you lose, like sometimes when you bet on speed or you bet on certain traits, you can lose out. When you have a guy that's just flat out good football player and it's not because you're betting on a trait, it almost feels safer. But I'm starting to get the point. All this smoke has me potentially having Jordan Tyson as my first guy off the board. But I just think for fantasy purposes, for what we're doing today, that's the fit. Carnell Tate to the Giants. He plays split end on the outside. You've got Malik Neighbors playing slot flanker. And then they can basically just use a lot of 2 tight end sets with Patrick Ricard as the fullback. And you don't even really need a wide receiver 3. And basically everybody can get peppered. So that's it's a world that allows Isaiah Likely to live to some degree too. So I think for fantasy wishing, that's a good spot. For the Browns, if we're going to cram as many fantasy relevant players into this draft and still be realistic, I think sending wide, like these 3 picks, we could do back-to-back-to-back wide receivers if we want.
Yeah, let's rip them. Let's go Jordan
Tyson.
Let's go Mekhi Lemon. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, so what's the better fit for the Browns, you think?
I think for the Browns, it doesn't matter because there's a lack of target comp. I mean, honestly, I think Mekhi Lemon's probably the better fit for the Browns because Jordan Tyson's maybe has the highest upside. We can go Tyson. You can type him in.
Let's do Tyson.
Let's do
I think
Tyson.
There's a little overlap because like with what
how Fannin was used.
And Jerry Judy's still there. Where it's like maybe just a more intermediate outside guy versus a guy that's going to start in the slot like Mekhi Lemon, right? That like with the Lemon here, because Terry McLaurin's like a true outside guy, high A-dot field stretcher. I mean, there's so much room for Mekhi Lemon to operate here, versus like competing with Fannin and Jerry Judy. I think that those fits right there for maximizing fantasy would be kind of the way to rock.
We're off the rails here with 3 wide receivers in the 5, 6, 7 spot. We might as well go Kenyon Sadiq here at the 8 spot.
I thought about doing Denzel Boston here and just kind of giving the same exact spiel on Carnell Tate. I mean, like now we're getting into the world of like would never happen.
Yeah.
Which is like we want to avoid that. This is possible. I think maybe Denzel Boston here would be a bit of a reach, but you want to give the
I will say Commanders at 7. If it sort of lands their way and you've got Sonny Styles, Mansour Delane, and Caleb Downs all sitting in front of them, I don't think they would take Mekhi Lemon. I think they'd be kind of thrilled with their defensive options or trade back. But yeah, I get it. I mean, Mekhi Lemon technically could go there.
Yeah. So for this pick, do we just go offensive line here and just say let's get some help for the run game in ETN, or we could do trade ups. If we could do trades, we could move the Saints down and give them a wide receiver. Like if we want to, like pick it. Like, let's go through here. What teams do we not want to draft fantasy relevant players? The Buccaneers. Like, let's move the Buccaneers up.
Yeah, I mean the Buccaneers have been linked to Kenyon Sadiq. I think that would be
I
the
don't want
one
that at
player.
all.
You don't want that at all because he won't be the number one target with Emeka Egbuka there. But couldn't he technically earn a? And I guess Godwin being older though, that doesn't factor into your landing spot there because Sadiq's 21.
There's better ones. There's better landing spots right away. And also that scheme uses the tight end in line. It would be a total scheme change to like
Okay, so let's go super fun here. The team that has the most target opportunity that is technically close enough to this sort of draft range is the Miami Dolphins trade up, and they make Kenyon Sadiq sort of a focal point to their passing game. Even if they add another wide receiver, it would sort of be like Devon Achane along with Kenyon Sadiq. I think that would be the fun one. Move Miami up to 8 and have the
now
Saints
you're
trade down.
thinking, bro. See, now you're thinking. Now that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, let's
we'll
do it.
We'll do trades with that right there. And then we go Kenyon Sadiq here.
Yep.
Right. And then there's just so much room. And we could even have the Dolphins take another pass catcher here. That's how bad the pass catchers are for the Dolphins right now, right? Like you could literally draft them 2 guys and have them both be fantasy relevant. So that's perfect. That's good right there. So the Chiefs and Giants, we got to get some guys off the board that we know are going to get drafted. Like
yeah, so this can be, let's just make it Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles.
Yes.
So make give the Chiefs Caleb Downs, or excuse me, give the Chiefs your pick. It doesn't really matter right here.
Yeah. Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs. And then here with the Saints,
you go Denzel.
And now they have the same setup that everybody's trying to do with the, he can be the AJ Brown type guy to Chris Olave's Devonta Smith. And I know, it hurts Juwan Johnson and Devon Bailey, but really, who cares? You know what I mean? It's like we're trying to maximize the fantasy relevant guys. We want as many guys that can immediately be top 2 targets on their team. And I think Boston can do that. Do I think do you like Boston as a prospect?
I like Boston. I think Boston's a little bit beat up, and I think there's going to be the people that are fading Boston are going to have to adjust their ranks because I think he's a chance to be a top 20 pick. There's a lot of steam with him connected to the LA Rams. There's steam with him connected to the New York Jets. And I think that like when you're looking at Boston, he's 6'4", he's 218 pounds. Different than what we saw with a lot of the big time fantasy producers. But I don't think he needs to get pigeonholed to just an outside threat. He was 25% plus target share every year at Washington, had over 20 touchdowns the last 2 seasons. And he also, when it comes to Boston, he's just a clean prospect. I think you could even use him as a big slot in the right scheme. So I think Boston's a little bit beat up. People don't like chasing those big outside receivers anymore, but I think he's fine.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with Boston is that, and I think people say, oh, he didn't have an early enough breakout age, but like he probably would have if Rome Odunze just went to the NFL when he was supposed to, right? I mean, I know like Odunze stayed another year and did the whole thing with the basketball team and the contested catches, and it was good for himself. But had he gone to the NFL 1 year earlier, we probably would have got a Denzel Boston breakout year earlier, right?
That's right for sure.
I'm with that 100%. Cowboys, who's your top offensive lineman in your mock?
Well, I think it's Francis Maui-Noah is probably the one, but does Fano go ahead of him because of Maui-Noah's injury where, there's a chance that he misses 3 months or something at the go if they address the injury situation. But Francis Maui-Noah, I think, is a really clean prospect, and it's no concerns really long-term. I do think for some teams he has to bump inside to the guard position. I also think Vega Ione is a stud. I'm into some of these other offensive linemen as well, though. I think it's a pretty deep class of offensive tackles. Maybe there's not like the top of the food chain offensive tackle that like we're saying, oh, we have to take this guy at 3 or 4 overall. But I think in terms of depth and quality, there's like 6 or 7 of those OTs that are going to go inside of round 1.
Yeah, that's for the sake of our mock draft. I want to put those guys with teams with offenses where we like the pieces already, and we don't want the defense to get better. Like for fantasy, right? The Cowboys, give them a tackle. They have Pickens, they have Lamb. They have Ferguson. They have Javonte Williams. Give them a tackle and let's keep that defense bad. If you put Sonny Styles or Caleb Downs on that defense, maybe it's a little less hucky-chucky football. So
Well, we still have Ruben Bain on the board though. If we want to put Francis Maui-Noah with one of the next two picks, and we want to put Ruben Bain at 12, just keeps it sort of more in line. If you want to do it that way,
can we do Ruben Bain to the Rams?
Absolutely, go Ruben Bain to the Rams. Saves you saves you a deletion as well.
Yeah, and that definitely saves me well, what do you think's more realistic? Because we want to at least have some realistic.
I think Ruben Bain wouldn't get past Dallas at 12. I think they're much more in need of an impact defender, and I think that's a position they want to address. I think there's also a chance they could trade up for Bain. They could trade up for Downs. They've been linked to Styles. I think they want to get one impact guy, but I think they're also going to take another defender at 20.
Okay, let's do that then, just so we can have some argument that that way, if somebody points at this draft and they're like, this is completely ridiculous, at least right now, I mean, having the first offensive lineman go at 13 is already kind of crazy, but we've at least been able to explain every pick here, right? Next one here, Ravens.
Seiko Vega Ioane, if you want to if you want to cram up. I love Casey Concepcion, but I think it's a little bit of overlap with Zay Flowers if we're going realistic.
What I can do here for you, that is,
and Mansour Delane is still on the board. We kind of have to get.
This would be an insane reach, but hear me out. Ready? I can see you already smiling.
I know what you're going to say.
Do you know?
Well, I'm guessing you're going to go changing of the guard here, and Eli Stowers.
No, I wasn't going to go there. Okay, here's where I was going to go. Is that you look at this scheme with Declan Doyle, right? And what he comes from the Ben Johnson tree, for those that don't know. And what Ben Johnson did in Detroit and then did in Chicago, you got the inside guy, the Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Moore type guy, and then you have kind of a field stretcher outside type guy, Jamison Williams, and then Rome Odunze kind of played that role as well. This is a spot where I think you could get away. This team and the Raiders, which the Raiders do not have a first-round draft pick, but we could give them one. Or do they have a first-round draft pick? Oh, they have the first overall pick. We could give them another one. Is a spot where I think a field stretcher could actually get something done and be a fantasy relevant player in that type of role where it's like really highly consolidated you move Zay Flowers into the Amon-Ra St. Brown role, and then somebody is like the Jamison Williams here. And like, if you
go Casey Concepcion there.
I was going to go I was going to go nuts and go like Chris Brazzell or just Ted Hurst or something and just stretch your imagination as far as you can take it. Is that too far?
Yeah, but I think KC's versatile enough, and it keeps us still like somewhat in the wheelhouse of where the draft capital will go. He's got the speed. You could use him on a lot of the Jamison Williams type touches and routes like we've seen in Detroit. If you're going to go fully, Flowers.
What we do have in our back pocket, which technically we haven't used yet, is we do have the excuse of there's always one really terrible pick. Right? So we could just say Ravens take this field stretcher, Chris Brazzell, and everyone's like, what the heck? But that's how it goes. And then we could save Casey Concepcion for another team where he lands in a more ideal spot.
Whatever you want to do with this,
we're not going to do
it. I like Casey there. If we're going to go off the rails,
that's off the rails for you. I think a lot of people are talking about him being in the conversation where.
Oh, no, he's absolutely there. I just think does Baltimore, if they take a wide receiver, do they lean more into a guy like a Boston than a guy like a KC? But no, I think for this process, it works well. And I would say if you want to have Tampa Bay not take one of our offensive guys because you don't want them to land in Tampa, then I think here we could just go Mansour Delane with one of the next two.
That's spots. What I have in my actual mock draft.
Mansour, I think Mansour is going to be off the board.
In my actual mock, I have them going. I have Mansour going. Oh no, I have him going 13 to the Rams, and I have the Bucks taking Jermod McCoy.
There you go. So the Jets at 16. Is this another team that you want to give them the wide receiver too for their offense?
I want to do that.
Eli Stowers.
What do you think about that?
Okay, go for it. I think goodbye Mason Taylor.
I know, enthusiasm
Mason Taylor. For anybody still out there.
But you look at Frank Reich, and he on his resume, Theo, He's got a season where Antonio Gates ran 75% of his routes from a wide receiver spot, finished tight end 2. He's got a season where Zach Ertz, 60% wide receiver routes, finished tight end 6. And then he has a season where Eric Ebron caught 13 touchdown passes, ran 79% of his routes from wide receiver spot. I think Frank Reich, I have the Jets taking Kenyon Sadiq here, but reaching for Eli Stowers also puts a smile on my face. I think he could easily he could
I
be a
love
top
it.
2 target on the team. It doesn't hurt Garrett Wilson. It doesn't hurt Brees. It helps Brees Hall because he's going to be a better blocker than any slot wide receiver on the team. And it's a landing spot for a big slot tight end. So I like either Sadiq or Stowers. And again, they could take Stowers at pick 33 in real life, but for our super fantasy cram draft here, why not? Right?
No, I love it. I think Stowers, Stowers landing well is one of the skeleton keys for dynasty,
It's
where
everything.
we need Stowers to land well. If Stowers lands in a situation where he's going to be fast tracked to heavy usage and he's going to get on the field a lot, then that makes our dynasty rookie draft picks a lot more valuable. If Stowers falls like past pick
Dead.
50 to like some wasteland where we're like, ugh, then that makes him go drop like 5, 6 spots in dynasty rookie rankings. Like, we
We
need
do.
him to land well. So
He
yeah,
could
go
be
for
like
it,
that's
man.
the thing. Like if he goes very early, then we're feeling good about the possibility that he's going to be an every down player. But he could go later and end up being the next like Cameron Brate,
Dalton
Anthony
Kincaid.
Ferkser. Like what I mean? He could just be a part time player. Like in the NFL, they don't always view it the way we do. Where like if a guy even contribute, there are so many pure like brutally bad busts that do nothing. That even if a guy ends up being like a 60% snap share guy that contributes a little bit, from the 3rd or 4th round, everybody's shaking hands and saying good job. So
Yeah,
we do need
100%.
him to go early. Lions here, I don't want them really taking any fantasy relevant guy.
Okay, so let's have them take Spencer
Yes,
Fano, offensive
perfect.
tackle, get him off the
And
board. Now, what about Minnesota? Minnesota's obviously with
yeah,
Addison, Hawkinson, and let alone Justin Jefferson. But do we want to go crazy for running back of the future? Because you have a 31-year-old, and then you have Jordan Mason as the running back combination. It would be annoying for a year, but Jadarian Price in 2027, this would be a very exciting landing spot. And I do think
it
Minnesota
is.
drafts a running back, but I don't think they draft one in round 1, but I think they draft one at some point during the draft.
You know what? Let's trade him back then. Let's move him back. Let's move him back, and let's pick a team that we don't want to take a fantasy relevant player, and we'll move him up.
Okay, so let's go with
Uh,
well, I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they have 2 wide receivers that are going to at least get some targets this year.
yes.
So have Steelers move up to here and they jump in order to get Ty Simpson.
Yeah, that's it right there. Boom. That's the ticket.
Yeah, so you get Ty Simpson here because
I mean, the
Arizona
trade
was
up,
trying to trade with Dallas.
somebody else is trying to move up. That's the way.
Yep.
Boom. Now,
Well, no, I would have Minnesota going only a couple picks down though.
yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Okay, cool.
I just have it trying to copy and paste is I'm doing on the side here, as you can see. All right, so go Ty Simpson there. Do you have Ty Simpson as your QB2?
Yes. I mean, I
Yeah.
think Ty Simpson at the end of the day is not the greatest prospect that we've ever seen, but I think in terms of Ty Simpson versus QB3, I think he's it. And I don't think it's that close. If we took away the last 2 of the last 3 games out of his resume and he simply didn't play against Indiana and didn't play against Georgia in the SEC title game, I think people would be a lot more into Ty Simpson. The problem with Ty Simpson is he has not a whole lot of starting experience, but he is 23 years old. And there's a lot of teams who like him. I think he does some squint and see some Brock Purdy to his game.
And the thing with Simpson, the one thing that bugs me with Simpson is that when he throws on the run, he kind of has to like stop when he throws. But then when you realize what the injury was and what he was dealing with, I'm not necessarily sure that I think that's something he could potentially get over. I think I still hold out hope for, and people hate when I say this, and I'm sure you hate it. I still hold out hope for Drew Aller. I just think that a team is going to get froggy on him and take a stab on what he was supposed to be. And the idea that maybe because he's still young and he was at Penn State the entire time, that maybe he just wasn't developed properly and didn't take the next step. Like, I think somebody will take a shot on him. I do want to see if we can sneak Drew Aller into this draft later on. But I like Ty Simpson as well. I have him as my QB2 as well. But with Nussmeier, I worry with him that he might be at his like ceiling already. Just like he's already polished all the way up. His dad's a coordinator, and he just doesn't have the trait. Like he has these skills, but might not have the traits. Do you get that feeling as well?
Yeah, I mean, Nussmeier also has some of the same criticisms of Simpson, where the starting experience is not vast. Aller has a little bit more there. Aller, I just feel like he translates as an NFL backup. And I think that's really what a lot of these guys will ultimately be. I think Nussmeier, Aller, Carson Beck are NFL backup quarterbacks. I think the wild card guys that do have a little bit of juice to their profile, that we could say maybe Cole Payton and Taylon Green are sort of the two guys I'm rooting for in this draft to sort of land pretty well. For Aller, I think that the one landing spot that would sort of make it interesting would be the Pittsburgh Steelers, where he stays in state. They have 3 third-round picks. If they use a third-round pick on one of those guys, I think that's like sort of the best possible landing spot for realistic, not like our draft where Aller's probably like
we're gonna have somebody trade up and take Aller in the first round.
Okay, you got it, man.
And Nussmeier.
All right, let's do it.
I mean, like, while we're doing fantasy wishing, and that's it. John Arrington in the chat. Why you murder my baby Jordan Tyson? We're trying to do what's best for everybody. We're trying to give everybody targets, especially immediately. So in this hypothetical landscape, you know what? Deshaun Watson makes a massive comeback, and him and Jordan Tyson are locked in, same page. Or Shedeur Sanders.
Or Shedeur Sanders has 35 touchdown passes this year, and 15 of them go to Tyson.
Or Dylan Gabriel comes out of left field. But you got to use your imagination with this draft, which is what we're doing. Folks joining us late. That's what we're doing here. We are stretching.
We're
wish casting. We're stretching the imagination as far as we can. I don't think there's any picks here that are completely out of line. Let's put it that way. Carolina Panthers here. Again, they have Ted McMillan. He's apparently going to put on weight and be a big dog. Likes playing a bit at a higher weight than what he said. We could sacrifice JT Sanders and Jalen Coker and the rest of these guys to the fantasy gods right now if you want.
Yeah, I think this is another spot where let's just sort of get a guy taken from like the actual NFL draft and sort of move on. Let's give him Dylan Thieneman, who they really like, the safety from Oregon.
Yeah, I have him going to the Vikings.
I think it's law. It's like a law if you're doing mock drafts that Dylan Thieneman has to go to Minnesota.
Right.
Everybody's has that one, but I do think Carolina likes him. They also want to get a impact safety, and I think there's a little bit of a delta between him and McNeil Warren, the safety 3 in this class now. I think Thieneman might move up a little bit.
Now, we don't have enough fantasy relevant wide receivers to do Panthers here. I think that would be pushing it too far, right?
Yeah, I think Panthers, let's just do a realistic pick, get him off the board.
All right, let's do Cowboys too.
Okay, so Cowboys, do we want to go real? You don't want to keep a fantasy relevant guy there, do you?
I want to do 3 realistic picks in a row and trade the Vikings back down a bit because I don't think they're going to take a running back there either. So Cowboys, what's another realistic player that we need to get off the board here?
Vega Ione, the guard from Penn State, I think is gone somewhere in the first 22 picks. I think he's a stud. He might be the best offensive lineman in this draft. He just happens to be a true guard as opposed to one of these tackles who ends up bumping inside the guard.
And this is they had the famous pick of Zach Martin over Johnny Manziel that everybody hated, and then it turned out to be the exact right pick. So you can give them another one. Joey Wright wants to be drafted to the Chargers to visit Los Angeles. I think that would be a good pick because I don't want to put any more fantasy relevant players in the Chargers. I'm very nervous.
Let's draft Joey Wright to, I mean, I can't say a city name because somebody is going to get offended. Let's send Joey Wright to, I don't know, Cleveland. It's probably not great weather today. Let's send him to the Browns.
Yeah, go to the Browns, dude. You can hang out at the casino there. Vikings, let's pick another team where we don't want them to make a fantasy relevant move, which I kind of look around. I don't want the 49ers to draft.
Okay, so have the 49ers trade up and get an offensive tackle.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
Let's go Monroe Freeling to the San Francisco 49ers.
Yes. And then I think we can feel comfortable with the what did I do here? Oh, wait, I don't want to do it like that. Give me 2 seconds.
You got to hit the little back button.
Yeah. There we go. That's gonna work better for what we're doing. All right. So who we want to put here?
Monroe Freeling, offensive tackle
Yes, yes, yes,
from
yes, yes.
Georgia.
Yes, yes, yes. That's perfect because Trent Williams getting up there. I know he signed an extra deal, but they need help regardless, and potentially the guy for the future for them. So that is perfect. Makes sense for everybody. Chargers. I'm super nervous the Chargers are going to draft a tight end. I'm also nervous that they could. So I've been going through and looking at cap space and compensatory picks and just general roster size. And the Chargers are in such a weird spot. They have the third most cap space of any team. They're trying to collect the third round pick for Ansa, so they can't sign anybody right now. But right after the draft, players don't count against the compensatory pick formula. So I'm nervous that this team could draft a tight end or potentially sign Darren Waller or Johnny Smith because Aronde Gadsden would be in such a good spot if they don't add anybody, but I'm nervous. But I don't want the Chargers to draft. They have a running back. They have way too many wide receivers. I want them to trade Quentin Johnson. That would be what I would do. But we're not going to get into trading players here. Who should we go to with the Chargers that's not going to disrupt anything for fantasy?
So I mean, you could go with another offensive lineman here. I think they're still building there. I think Blake Miller, people want to bump him inside. They've signed interior offensive linemen through free agency, but adding Blake Miller, he gives them the flexibility that if they have another injury at tackle, they would be covered. Another really big offensive tackle prospect that I think is probably gone in the first like 25, 27 picks in this draft. Or we can go Peter Woods if you want to go an interior defensive lineman.
I have them going Akeem Messidor.
With Messidor's fine too, but he's a little bit. So I think Messidor, a lot of teams are projecting him to be a defensive end, but I think there's some teams out there that are viewing him as maybe the best interior pass rusher in the draft. He also has defensive tackle experience, basically slimmed down to be this defensive edge. Messidor's fine. The only problem with Messidor is
he's old.
What teams care that he's 25?
The Chargers wouldn't. That's why I have them going there.
Chargers wouldn't, right?
They're
Messidor. That's fine.
They're playing to win now. Because if you're a team that's playing for the future, you don't draft a 25-year-old pass rusher. But if you're the Chargers and you keep going to the playoffs and face planting, you want guys that can compete right away. That's my thought process on them taking him.
So the Eagles next are interesting because if we're having them trade AJ Brown, then it would create an easy button wide receiver 2 type pick, considering it's like Hollywood Brown, Dontavian Wicks. But I'm guessing, Coop, you're not too excited about a wide receiver landing here.
I don't want to do that for this one. Again, he's saying Trey Harris to the moon. If we were doing that, I would have the Chargers trade Quentin Johnston, and I would have the Eagles trade AJ Brown. But I don't think that happens based on the contract situation until after June 2nd. So I think for this mock, we should just play it straight in terms of player trades. And in that case, I don't want the Eagles to draft anybody meaningful. Who is the
so then take another for them. I think that they're going to be locked into offensive line here.
Yes.
There's a chance they could go with an edge rusher. Keldrick Falk, if you want to go edge rusher, I think would be interesting. But I think ultimately Howie Roseman is going to see the writing on the wall where we've had two out of the last 3 picks were offensive linemen. So I think we go with an offensive lineman here. But if you want to go edge, go with Keldrick Falk.
I have Keldrick Falk in my own mock draft, which is why the moment you said that name, I was in on that.
Okay, cool.
Browns lineman.
Yeah, so Browns go with we could go Max Ihenacho or did we do Blake Miller before?
We haven't done him yet.
Then go Blake Miller here.
Yeah. Go Blake Miller. And there you go. Because they've got the weapons now, and now the line's getting beefed up. Bears, we do not want to take a weapon.
Oh, well, here we go. If we want to have a sacrificial cardio guy to make more targets for Colston Loveland and more targets for Luther Burden and Roma Dunze, we could go that here if you wanted to.
I don't even want to put a pass catcher because, again, we don't want to look back on this mock and be like, okay, it's only.
So then let's go with an interior defensive lineman.
Yes.
Or we could say that Chicago is the team that takes the faller, Jermod McCoy.
Jermon McCoy, Emmanuel McNeil Warren. Though now I'm hearing that he's not.
I think McNeil Warren might fall out of round 1, and if
That's
he
what I'm
does
hearing
go in
too.
round 1, I think he might maybe goes to the very end of it.
Okay, let's do Jermon McCoy because I think that he's
Yeah, this is
probably
a
going to.
good. They'll look
We
at
don't
this
want anyone to
value
look at the mock. First of all, we don't want anyone to look at this mock at all without
Yeah.
knowing exactly what we were doing. But we also don't want anyone to look at this and be like, "Where's Jermon McCoy? Where are these guys that are guaranteed to be going?" Right now, I feel pretty good about like everybody in here is a guy. Like everybody that is guaranteed to go is kind of in here. Is there anybody that we look and be like, "Okay, this guy should probably like we can realistically now kind of finagle trades and do whatever we want to put guys where we want."
I mean, Buffalo, though, there's a wide receiver still on the board that I think if he ended up being a Buffalo Bill in the regular draft, people would end up getting excited about it for fantasy. It would be Omar Cooper Jr.
I know. I want Omar Cooper Jr. on the Patriots, though.
Okay, so why don't we just go ahead and go up to pick 31 and make sure the Patriots.
Which guys can we put in here? Like, which guys can we? Who else?
Then go Caden Proctor, the big offensive lineman out of Alabama, because Buffalo might take a lineman. You could also go with a edge rusher, TJ Parker.
Who else you like? Who are your like potential sleeper first round wide receivers that like? Okay, say we're gonna go Omar Cooper. Is there somebody else here? Yeah, Joey's saying Chris Brazzell. I already tried to get Brazzell in there.
Brazzell, there's been some late reports that like people are concerned about like a couple of I don't know his attitude or something. It seems like a fake smoke to get like somebody off of him. But Chris Brazzell, I think if there was a player if we're going like athletic traits, he would probably be the cleanest wide receiver for me of the guys that we think could go in the top 40. So if we want to cram a wide receiver up, but I just think Omar Cooper Jr. is going to be drafted ahead of him and probably going to be drafted maybe 12, 15 spots ahead of him. So I think we might as well just go kind of realistic here.
We need to put a
but if you really want to save him for the Patriots, why don't we just have an AFC East trade where Patriots trade up and get Omar Cooper Jr.?
Okay. I like that. Because here's the thing. Omar Cooper's got to go in here. He's got to go before Chris Brazzell.
Yep.
And but we want to get like Brazzell and maybe a couple of those guys in here just because it's possible. You know what I mean? So let's do that. Get the Bills down. And we could even have somebody else trading into that Bills spot. So let's do this. Let's go Patriots Omar Cooper Jr. And now we can do whatever we want in terms of like another wide receiver, wherever.
Let's go Jadarian Price here.
This is like the best. The Patriots getting, and this is just not even me speaking as a Patriots homer, which I am, but like the Patriots, as far as a landing spot for a slot flanker type player, you've got Romeo Doubs on the outside. You've got a bunch of guys that can stretch the field. And Keyshawn Butte is not even reporting to camp because there's trade rumors with him and he's pissed off. But it's like Mac Hollins and Kyle Williams and these field stretcher type guys. You've got Hunter Henry, who is like, he's whatever as a tight end. And then you have Josh McDaniel, who's had these crazy seasons with Wes Welker and Julian Edelman. And Stephon Diggs is obviously gone. Like, it's the perfect spot for a Casey Concepcion or an Omar Cooper Jr. or, Mekhi Lemon. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But, like, any sort of guy that can play in that area is going to thrive with the Patriots. That's why I want to make sure that we put a good player we like there, which is this, right?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's fine. I mean, obviously New England is a kind of a dream landing spot for a lot of these wide receivers because the target competition and also because you have Drake May. So it's a pretty easy argument.
Yeah. Now, does Joey have this right? Is this what we want to do? Jadarian Price to the Vikings. We did multiple trade backs to make it realistic for them to take a running back.
Yeah, I mean, we could have them. Let's have them take them. This is why we did it. This is why we made the move back. We're getting Jadarian Price. We're pushing a running back into round 1, and it's right there.
Boom. With one of these picks here, here's what I'm going to do with this pick. This is what one thing I want to do is Texans. I'm going to have. Do we want to do quarterback? What do we think is most realistic? A team trades up to this pick for a quarterback?
Yeah, I think of the players still available. I mean, no, it's not really that realistic, but could there be a tight end that Houston falls in love with and we just stump for one?
There.
Okay, Drew Aller. There you go.
I did that. We're doing that. Here's what I'm doing with these next picks. I want the Raiders to trade in for Chris Brazzell somewhere.
Done. So let's have Kansas City trade down.
with the too many. That's another division team.
Okay, so then have Miami trade down when it gets to Miami because we already had them take Sadiq. They don't need to go receiver.
Yeah, they do.
Then let's
They,
take
they
then have a one pick trade up from Miami. There you
no,
go,
we're
Chris
doing
Brown.
another division trade. We're doing another division trade there. Because think about this, the scheme that Clint Kubiak runs, super high A dot, the highest A dot or highest yards per attempt season of all time. He was a pass game coordinator in 2023 with Brock Purdy. And then last year with Sam Darnold, you saw JSN with led the league in 40 plus yard passes. I know he's JSN and not Chris Brazzell, but you saw Chris Olave with this scheme too with the Saints. Like they are good at using these outside guys to scheme them up. And it's two wide receiver sets, right? So say Chris Brazzell's a guy you don't like, which I don't even particularly like him, or Ted Hurst or whoever. Like you got to find a landing spot for those guys where they can be forced into highly consolidated targets. And the Raiders with the two tight end sets and the fullback usage is like one of the few spots where that works for a guy like this. That's my argument to make it happen. Where I think like, okay, how do we make lemonade out of the lemon that a guy like this is, right? Does that make sense to you?
Totally makes some sense here. I just can't stop
Totally
looking
makes
at the
some
Drew
sense.
Aller
Don't make
one.
some. I say all that stuff. It all makes sense. It fully makes. You don't say some. You don't like Brad.
I just keep staring at Drew Aller to the Arizona Cardinals in the first round.
Dude, listen, the Mike LaFleur, he came out and said that Jacoby Brissett, dude, this is a huge stretch. Right? He said that. What did he say when he was asked about Jacoby Brissett playing quarterback? Do you remember what he said?
I do not.
He said he's a big body and he certainly looks the part back there. That's what he said. He said with his big frame, he looks the part back there for what we like to do. Which quarterback in this class has a big frame and
he's got a big frame?
Drew
Aller's got a big frame. I'll give you that.
Okay, there. All right. Who we trading up to take Garrett Nussmeier?
Or why don't we have the Miami Dolphins stick and pick and take Chris Bell here? You get him the injury discount for a wide receiver who's really good. He probably would have been a first rounder if he didn't get injured. And then we've got Buffalo that can trade back and Seattle that can trade back.
No, Seattle's going to take a running back.
Okay, so then that works perfectly. So let's have the Bills trade back.
Well, you can pick any team you want. Any team you want here.
Well, I mean, if we want to, do we want to have some pressure on Bryce Young this year in Carolina and have them trade up and get another short king and Diego Pavia?
Ooh. We don't actually, you know what we could do here?
Or obviously the Jets would be the one.
We could have the Panthers trade up and take like Max Clare here.
This is your show, Coop. If you want to trade up for Max Clare, let's do it. Sam Roush, little Sam Roush action?
I don't like Sam Roush. You like Sam Roush?
I think Sam Roush is going to drafted pretty highly. I think he's going
to be drafted highly, and I think I'm worried that he's going to be the next like Josh Oliver.
He's massive. He's massive and he's athletic. Player. So he's interesting.
Very short arms though.
I think that the Max Clare has a good fantasy profile though, and I think he will go on day 2.
Okay, day 2. All right. So, but do we like? Here's the thing. Historically speaking, you would have Pavia over Nussmeier?
No, I mean I think Pavia is just more fun. If we're like, who could be the most fun one? It's Pavia.
Oh, why don't we have the Jets just trade up like 2 picks?
Yeah, have the Jets trade up 2 picks.
The Bills are going to trade with the Jets and the Patriots.
Let's go Cole Payton. Go Cole Payton here.
Yes,
Jets fall in love with Cole Payton.
Yes, where were you with that? That's the perfect. Now you're getting the exercise.
They've actually been linked with Cole Payton. The Jets have. I think like there's been some Jets beat reporters like saying that they like Cole Payton. Obviously not first round but he could be a 3rd round pick for them type guy.
Now you're getting it. Now we have the Browns trade back in and take Taylon Green with this.
We have to have the Seattle stick and pick because the dream would be we get not only 2 running backs drafted in the first round, we get a 3rd.
And it's Mike Washington.
And then it's a perfect ending. And fantasy managers would rejoice.
They fall in love with the speed. They fall in love with the 100th percentile combination of speed score. And they know Kenneth Walker was a Super Bowl MVP, and they just need to have that guy. They need to have that guy back. And that guy is Mike Washington. Cole Payton, pick of the draft by you, man. Didn't even come come across my radar, but that would be the best fantasy relevant play. It goes to a team that has pick 33, right? So even the Bills would be willing to go back a little more. I mean, I'm telling you, dude, this draft here, entirely. I'm submitting this to the Huddle Report.
Do it. This is going to be your official Huddle Report draft.
How many points? 20 points?
Well, again, it's how many players went in the first round. Yeah, you'd finish pretty poorly because you're already sacrificing a bunch of these guys
And
who
there's
are
so
not going to be
many
first round
trades.
picks, including Eli Stowers.
You don't get any of the picks. You don't get any of the points for getting players with the right teams because the trades, like there's so many absurd trades. But I'm just saying, folks, this is an exercise we're doing. And obviously not all of this is going to happen, but everything that we said here had some, besides the Drew Aller to the Cardinals pick, had some semblance of realistic possibility that could happen. And even, you know what, Drew, would it be crazy if a team picked Drew Aller at the very end of the first round?
Yes.
Oh, come on, dude.
It would be crazy. I would love the Jadarian Price and Mike Washington one. I'm tired of hearing about this running back class being so bad. I would like a lot of people to have to say, well, I still hate these guys, but they were first round picks. It would be like the greatest capitulation. That being said, I'm really high on Jadarian Price. I think he's going to be a good player for fantasy. I'm rooting for him to get top 40. Mike Washington is interesting. I think he probably ends up going somewhere close to where we saw like Trey Benson selected, like that 65 range. Probably somewhere end of second to the middle of the third. And I do think he'll go on day 2.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. Coming from me today, by the way, Fantasy Alarm, keep your eyes on it. This will be a free article. I'm going to write an article today. 3 bold draft predictions from Andrew Cooper. Jets take a tight end somewhere. Drew Aller, first round pick, and Mike Washington, first round pick. That article is going to come out today. So
get a lot of clicks. That one's going to get a lot of clicks.
Because the hate clicks are coming. I'll post it on Reddit. But because here's the thing. If we go through this exercise and we said up front that we're doing fantasy wishing and you still are saying that's not happening, then those are truly bold takes. And you know what? Let's get them out there.
Let's do it.
So real quick, let's just recap this. Hit me with I'm gonna give a quick stump speech for our fantasy relevant ones, and you just hit me with a scale 1 to 10 on how realistic it is that this happens. Fernando Mendoza at 1.
10.
Jeremiah Love to the Cardinals at 3.
9.
Cardinal Tate to be the split end for the Giants.
4. Just because I think that, in the real draft, I think ultimately they might like Tyson more, and I think Tate's in play for New York. But if I had to put a number on it, it wouldn't be over 50% type likelihood.
Yeah. Jordan Tyson to the Browns. I think I actually have this in my real mock draft as the first wide receiver off the board.
I think this one's fine. We'll give it a 7.
7. Mekhi Lemon to the Commanders.
I love Mekhi Lemon, but I don't think this is the landing spot, so I'm going to go 5.
5, yeah, agreed. Kenyon Sadiq to the Dolphins via trade up, I think is like a 4, but to the Dolphins where they actually pick. What would you say?
Where they actually pick, I'm going to say a 4 or a 5. I don't think it's out of the woodwork. And they have so many picks that they could take this swing for the fences elite athlete at 11, and it sort of falls in line with where we've seen guys like Brock Bowers, Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren. Maybe this like pick 10 through 15 range is the new tight end 1 goes. It'll be 3 consecutive drafts if the Dolphins do it.
Yeah. The for those that missed the beginning part of the show, the reason the Dolphins are picking there is because we needed the Saints to move back to make it realistic for them to take a wide receiver, because we weren't going to draft four wide receivers in a row. Denzel Boston via trade back to the Saints. Realisticness.
2.
Okay. I think that's fair. Casey Concepcion to the Ravens, though.
I'm going to give it a 4. I think that it's not out of the wheelhouse. I think KC's really good. Maybe 4 is a little bit optimistic because I love KC, but it's not a 0.
The Jets taking Eli Stowers here, probably like a 2. But
no, I think it's 6 at 16 when they already have the early second round pick.
Right, they have 33.
So they could just take Stowers there.
Yeah. But them taking a tight end at all with one of those 2 picks.
Oh, if you said the field, then I think Sadiq's been mentioned by some of the Jet beat reporters at 16, where
like Sadiq.
Wide receiver and Sadiq were both in play for them. So we'll say if it's a pass catcher at 16, I'm going to say it's a 6 or 7. If it's a Eli Stowers only, I'm going to say a 1.
Yeah, in this hypothetical world, yeah, it's probably a one. But in this hypothetical world that we've created, I'll also just throw in this hypothetical that is absolutely true, which is that the Jets were trying to trade ahead of the Dolphins to take Sadiq because they're so committed to getting Frank Reich, that big slot tight end, that when the Dolphins traded up and took Sadiq, the Jets committed to taking the other big slot guy, which is Eli Stowers. So in this world, makes all the sense in the world. Ty Simpson to the Steelers.
Ty Simpson to the Steelers, I'm going to put it like a 3 or a 4. I don't think that's a non-zero chance. Steelers have met with every single quarterback. A lot of these guys we think are going to go in like the 3rd and 4th round. So I think them taking a quarterback is realistic, and they're right in that wheelhouse where they're at 21. They wouldn't have to trade, and they still have 3 third-round picks to cover their needs.
Yeah. And then we have 7 realistic picks here that don't really
Beautiful.
matter for fantasy because we're going to be fair and we're going to be unbiased and realistic. And of course, then I have the Bills trading my Patriots their pick so they could take Omar Cooper Jr. I think when you put 7 of these picks in here, you're allowed to do absolutely nonsense.
You're allowed to have fun, Coop. You're allowed to have fun.
I think the Patriots taking Omar Cooper Jr. at pick 31, though. How do you rank that on a scale of possibility?
If Omar Cooper Jr. is on the board at 31, I think he's absolutely consideration for New England for all the reasons you said. Them moving up here, not so sure about that, but I'll give this a 6.5.
Yeah. It's 6.5 at pick 31. The Bills aren't going to give him that pick to take that play.
This is true. And Bills might just take Omar Cooper Jr.
I know. Which would be fine for fantasy, but
he would haunt you. He would haunt you, Coop.
We've already, we traded away the pick that became Ladd McConkey. And then we took
Keon Coleman.
No. We didn't take Keon Coleman. We took even worse. The guy from Washington, dude.
Oh yeah. No, I was getting confused on that one. Yeah. That's Jalen Polk. Jalen Polk. I got you and Buffalo confused there.
Right. So this time the Patriots win and they get Omar Cooper Jr. The Vikings, both Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason are unrestricted free agents next year. So just couldn't be a better landing spot for the RB2. Theo's scale of 1 to 10. What do you got on this one? Drew Aller traded to the Cardinals first round.
-25.
-25. Okay. All right. Well, that's fine. Article coming today that will have that as the first the top H2 in the article will be Drew Aller, first round pick.
Drew Aller shocks the world. First round pick from
this article will be up within an hour.
There you go.
Chris Brazzell, Raiders trade up, take Chris Brazzell to be their Rashid Shaheed JSN field stretcher on the outside. Trey Tucker literally is top 5 in the league, top 3. The only 2 wide receivers to run more routes than Trey Tucker over the last 2 years are Jamar Chase and Jerry Jeudy. They need a replacement for that guy. It's going to be a field stretcher. It's going to be Chris Brazzell or Ted Hurst, probably later in the draft, but I like the landing spot. Possibility of this actually happening.
I mean, I think Brazzell to the Vegas Raiders at the beginning of the second round is like non-zero. Them trading up, I feel like if they trade back into the first round, it's probably because an offensive lineman fell. So I'm going to give this a low one. I'm going to go 2.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
But I do think them drafting that type of player potentially later as well makes sense. So
they need a wide receiver. They absolutely need a wide receiver.
Jermod McCoy is a cornerback. We're giving the Bears a cornerback or a safety because they already loaded with pass catchers. So that's a very possible pick. So don't rule that one out here, and I'll put us over here for so people can see the bottom of this. Then we have Chris Bell to the Dolphins.
I think Chris Bell to the Dolphins at 43 would make a ton of sense. Them taking him here at the end of the first round, I'd say is a 1.
Yeah, I agree. They're not going to take 2 pass catchers, but
it's also the fact that they have the other pick that's upcoming that they're probably going to take best available player, and it's not going to be Chris.
But if they do, if they had not taken Kenyon Sadiq, yeah, they wouldn't take Chris Bell there. In a real life draft, if they don't take a pass catcher with their first pick, then their second pick could be a wide receiver, but it probably wouldn't be Chris Bell. It probably, it
would probably be a Cooper, that sort of player.
I mean, we could have gone even crazier with this draft. Where's Jeremy Bernard? We could have snuck guys in.
We actually drafted defenders and
We
offensive
did.
linemen, so it is like it's fan fiction, but it's still a little bit
If
realistic.
2 of these happen, though, that's the thing. We want people to know what's possible and what we're rooting for. Jets trade up and take a guy that ran for 775 yards and 13 touchdowns, right? So that's great for fantasy. And then the Seahawks, they fall in love with Mike Washington's combine. I mean, it's entirely possible.
And Senior Bowl, and
And
Senior Bowl.
Senior Bowl, where our guy Theo Gremminger every year is the star. So, folks, if
That's
you
right.
want to screenshot the most and least realistic fantasy football mock draft, do that now. Smile big, Theo. Jeez.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. So screenshot that. Theo, thank you so much, man, for this exercise. It's a lot of fun. We were very realistic about it, I thought. Article coming soon on the 3 least realistic picks. But tell everybody, man, where they can find your real picks and your real takes so that they can be prepared for what is probably going to happen.
Yeah, Fantasy Points YouTube. You can find most of my stuff over there. Fantasy Football Daily podcast, Dynasty Life for my Dynasty podcast, School of Scott Barrett, and myself. We're doing a bunch of podcasts. You can find all of them over at Fantasy Points YouTube and Fantasy Points Dynasty YouTube. We're streaming the entire NFL draft. I think we have the best fantasy football coverage for the NFL draft anywhere over at Fantasy Points YouTube. Coop might join us on day 2. It hasn't been worked out. I sent him a Venmo. He said it wasn't enough. We're trying to renegotiate the appearance fee. But Coop might be with us for a segment on day 2. So you're not going to want to miss that one. But you've got Scott Barrett, Brett Whitefield, myself, basically for as much as we can handle. You've also got John Hansen, Ryan Heath, Joe Dolan, and some very cool guests joining us as well. So it's going to be a really, really fun few days over at Fantasy Points. I can't wait for it, Coop. It's like the end of the line. I'm doing my final mock draft today, like you are, and just churning out content. We streamed earlier, and then that's it, man. Just ready to get
something tells me that my people are going to be able to work that out with your people, and I'll pop in.
They already sent me a ridiculous PayPal request, and I'm like, I can't afford this.
Susan,
we're negotiating, though. It's going to work out. It always does.
Don't have to hardball Theo so hard. That's my agent, Susan. I'm like, you don't have to hardball Theo so hard, dude. And she's like, look. She's like, this is business, baby. There's no friend. So
she's like, it's NFL draft week. We got to recoup some money here. We got to churn it out. So yeah, I mean, Coop is a tough guy to schedule because of the appearance fees. That's really it.
I'll talk to her, and we'll settle it, dude. We'll settle it. I mean, she already texted me. She's like, Theo is a minute late for the show today, and I was like, that's not part of the negotiations. So we'll get that together. I will be live Sirius XM tomorrow and Friday, 6 to 8 p.m. So tomorrow the draft starts at 8. We will be live 6 to 8 talking about that. And then we'll be live 6 to 8 on Friday. And then after that, I'm going to jump over and talk with you. You know what? Susan's out on this one. I'm taking the reins. I'm using my veto card, so I will be on the show. So thank you very much, everyone, for popping in. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. And we will catch you guys next Wednesday when we do our draft recap show and we talk about all the crazy things that happened. Probably exactly what we talked about today is all going to happen. So we will see you guys next Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern time. Until then, folks, we are out of here.
Adios, turd nuggets.